Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel that takes on everything you ever wanted to know about narcissism and also narcissistic relationships and toxic situations of all kinds, with the hope that what you learn here is either going to help you heal from what you're already in or maybe even keep you out before you get in. Before I go further though, I know a lot of you are in it and we're trying to heal from it. And while we do get into healing on this YouTube channel, if you really want to do the deep dive into healing, please hit the link in the video notes and that will give you more information on a more robust healing program. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, join this wonderful community where the comments are often as good, if not better, than the videos. So let's talk about something today that you may have heard in other circumstances, and I'll even put it out there as a question. Have any of you ever said, okay, I can't leave this narcissistic relationship, but damn, I need a break. I wish I could just get a break? That's what we're going to talk about today. That idea of the kind of break you could use from a narcissistic relationship. And sometimes, when we're talking about other people in tough circumstances, it's called respite care. So let's talk about respite care as it might apply to people experiencing narcissistic abuse. Now, one thing about narcissistic abuse is that it is a pattern where the people around the person with this unhealthy pattern, actually, basically with narcissism, actually experience more harm than the narcissist themselves, right? So the people experiencing the narcissistic abuse experience more harm. Now, with most mental health issues, we do tend to focus on the person experiencing the issues, depression, anxiety, whatever it may be. But narcissism's a different beast, right? It's a personality style. And the bulk of the harm comes to those who are near the narcissist. And again, generally not the narcissistic person themselves, who tends to often just be living the life of Riley, never having to take responsibility for anything. Now, I was talking to folks the other day about managing the stress of taking care of themselves when they were taking care of somebody else. For example, somebody who's taking care of somebody who is, I don't know, living with serious medical problems or a pretty serious mental illness or dementia or some other needs that require heavy caregiving. Now, we know there's an existing literature that really goes into depth on caregiver burden, and it looks at people who may be caring for or living someone, like I said, with dementia or a physical illness, or someone who may be caring for someone who may be differently abled, or someone who may have a substance use disorder. What we know about that is that people in these situations where they're having to do heavy caregiving are often quite tired and may feel a sense of helplessness, mental exhaustion. They may feel anxious and burned out, and they have to deal with all kinds of systems such as insurance and healthcare providers. They may also have their own paid jobs and have to be taking care of kids or something like that. And just the heavy lifting of taking care of another person is a lot. Now, interestingly, in some situations, people who are experiencing caregiver burden may sometimes receive something called respite care. It's often in the form of someone who comes in and gives that caregiver a few hours or even more of a break so that the person can get out and maybe get a night out or a day of errands or even something like a weekend away. It's meant to replenish the caregiver so they can come back and take on the challenges a little bit more refreshed and clear-headed. It's usually granted when someone is caring for someone who has medical or something like memory care needs, and it might be paid for or provided by an agency or some other entity designed to support folks so their family member can be taken care of at home. Now, when I thought about that, when I was having this conversation about respite care, it left me wondering, what would respite care look like for someone in a narcissistic relationship? What would that mean? Because I know that in most cases, when a person's in a narcissistic relationship, they may not be taking care of them, but because folks with narcissistic personalities require so much reassurance, so much validation, so much supply, so much for things to be their way, even to the detriment of others, that anyone who has to live with them or has to put up with them may actually feel as though they are engaging in some form of caregiving. Oh, having to haul all that heavy validation into the room, even when you're exhausted, is no different than feeling as though you are having to haul someone up the stairs or carry laundry all over the house. I would actually say that actually hauling laundry and trash is much easier than having to constantly deliver validation to a narcissist. But let's face it, folks, there is no such thing being provided as respite care for narcissistic abuse, obviously. There is no agency I can think of that provides this. But what if we were to design it? What would respite care for folks experiencing narcissistic abuse look like? Because it may be something that we need to do for ourselves. Now, as I see it, it would be a place or a time where a person is not minimized, where they're not gaslighted, and where they're supported. In fact, where they are validated and their reality is supported, where they are encouraged to try new things and laugh out loud, and their courage is built up, where the conversation is actually about them for a minute and they aren't interrupted. A place where they can trust people and not worried about being lied to every minute, where they can eat what they want without it being criticized and go to sleep when they want without someone starting an argument at bedtime or first thing in the morning. And I got to tell you, if I ever win the lottery, I think I'm going to create a narcissistic abuse respite center. I could use one myself. And all of these things would happen for survivors. So I'll keep buying those lottery tickets. But alas, such a place right now does not exist. However, maybe you could try and craft your own version, a day or a weekend with friends who do these things for you, and where you might feel comfortable asking for these things ahead of time, like, hey, can I talk without interruption? Maybe it would just be time alone, even a night in a local hotel where you get to call the shots on your life for one night. Even calling the shots means eating cheesecake in bed while watching bad reality TV and then sleeping in. Perhaps it's a long drive where you are in charge of the music player or can listen to the kooky podcast you love without it being criticized, and then take yourself for lunch at the place that serves the food that the narcissistic person in your life never wants to eat. Maybe it's an extra day you quietly tack onto a business trip just to get a break. You just tell them the trip is lasting a day longer and then take advantage of already being gone, right? Now, if you have someone in your life, you're supporting a survivor of narcissistic abuse, maybe you can create a sort of mini respite care for them. Either make it possible for them to get away for a day by watching their kids or their pet or taking them someplace and ensuring that you listen to them and let them set the plan for the weekend or the day. Now, you may be dealing with or know someone who might be dealing with familial narcissistic abuse, where the person may not live with their family of origin, but any time spent with their parents takes a toll on them. So then you could offer to accompany them to soften the stress, or you can offer to sit with the most difficult family members so that the person you know who's in that family can manage the other issues in the family system. I've had people do that for me, and it's really helpful. The struggle with this is, of course, that after any respite care of any kind, the person does have to return to their original responsibilities. In the case of caregiving, that's going to happen, or have to return back to the narcissistic situation. But these moments of respite care aren't a cure. They are meant to replete and restore just a little bandwidth so a person can strengthen themselves and maybe be a little more resolute in the face of what is happening to them. Respite care isn't a one-off. It is something that has to be done on a somewhat regular basis, even if it's just every couple of months. When I think about what anyone needs when they are feeling broken down by a difficult caregiving situation, I recognize that this is something a person in a narcissistic relationship would also need. By thinking of it as respite care, it can help a person think of it as an essential restoration to stay strong. And hopefully, with that strength, get a little better at boundaries and slowly disengage from the manipulative landscape that is the narcissistic relationship. If you have any other ideas on what respite care could look like, drop them in the comments, if for no other reason that other people can read about it. But like I said, when it comes to other mental health situations or physical health situations, we're so invested in helping caregivers anywhere we can and any way we can. But we don't think about that with survivors of narcissistic abuse. We often just paint it as, oh, that's just a tough relationship. It's a lot more than that. And people in these relationships, especially when they can't get out of them, which is a lot of folks, every so often, you just need a break. Thanks again.